Sylvia's going to share your screen for your update.
So you want me to pull the update up?
No, I think
Okay.
Sylvia has access.
Okay. So you guys will just have it up there.
Just a second.
Perfect.
So specifically, Michelle, as it relates to the work that we committed to, if you would walk us down the path, let us know how we've done, any other supports that you need, and folks are on the conversation with us as well, so they can chime back in.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
All right, so the main people that we focused on are here in the status update. I do just want to mention that we've had other people supporting us, and we're very appreciative of that, and it is supporting the targeted work that you see here. So Nicole Anderson, Andrew Moores, and our ESS coaches have also been engaging with our staff for instructional walks, feedback, professional development, direct support to teachers. And so that is supporting all of our work around trying to improve student learning in math and literacy. Specifically here, we focused on partnering with Kyle and Malia for literacy. We have been doing instructional walks and providing feedback. Kyle has met with teachers, as has Malia, to do some planning. And then our teaching partner has also been meeting with Malia predominantly to do some planning for how to support our literacy teachers. We're seeing some pretty strong results overall based on interim 2. We are going to continue the instructional walks into second semester. And then we are continuing to partner with both Kyle and Malia as needed for either partnering with our teaching partner to provide support around DDI or planning, and in some cases working directly with teachers. Ken Jensen has been, oh, I forgot to mention Sam Dewey also has been out supporting science and doing science instructional walks with us. Again, not on this spreadsheet, but that's additional support we're receiving. Ken is working with us around math. Most recently, he and Colin were out on walks, and Carol, my teaching partner, and Ken and I just met yesterday to look over what was observed on those most recent walks and come up with a plan for third quarter. So we have a date where we're going to be providing some professional development to teachers, bringing in some subs so that we can do a deeper dive into planning and really focus with them based on what we're seeing, which is that we need to help our teachers to feel, I guess, more confident in using the PSOC resource on the iPads, and making sure that they also have the capacity to weave in the pedagogy that needs to go with that around structured student discourse and thinking routines. So that's our focus for third quarter in working with Ken and supporting our math teachers. And then as far as the mental health and counseling support, Christine just met with our psychologist and one of our assistant principals to do some resource mapping. And we are using some of that information to figure out where our gaps are. We also are one of the schools that was selected for the Young Men of Color initiative. So we are starting another opportunity to support about 15 of our students in 6th and 7th grade. That'll start in January. And then working with Christine and Eugene just around targeting some of the students who need those additional layers of support and what those should look like. So that work is ongoing, and it started with that resource mapping. So at this point, we are feeling very supported by the department and feel like we've got a lot of expert resources outside our building who are working with us to ensure student learning and a positive culture for our kids.
So at this particular point, Michelle, I mean, as you look through all of your status ratings, I don't see any indication. Are we meeting goals? Are we off track? What?
So I mark them on the week that I enter the data.
All right.
So it's all meeting goals with the exception of the week of 12-13. I think I put meeting goals with obstacles, or it might have been the week before, for math, just because we were transitioning. And then I put it there for the so it might have been the week. I can't see that whole screen to see what's marked for math there. Yeah, because we are transitioning from Ken and teaching partner working more so with an assistant principal to working with me. And then I just marked it as meeting goals with some obstacles, because we haven't taken that next step yet around getting the support around developing some plans for a handful of tier 3 students we have. Again, it started with the resource mapping, so it will continue, but we just don't have that piece done yet.
All right, so from the team's perspective, if you all have any comments, questions, this is an opportunity to ask Michelle clarifications, as well as what do we need to do moving forward.
Hey, Michelle, this is Baez.
Hi, Baez.
So with Colin transitioning and the current plan that you have for math, do you feel like that's going to be sufficient given, that gap that you're going to have on your team?
I do. So Carol Bacosin is our teaching partner and former math teacher and does the district PSOC trainings and all of that. So she's very capable as far as providing support to math teachers. And I'll be taking on our DDI meetings and the evaluation processes for those teachers. And then we were able to schedule the instructional walks that I will be able to participate in for both math and literacy, moving into third and fourth quarters.
Okay, I just wanted
to check. And we'll
definitely
reach out if there is something else we need. But right now, I feel like we have a pretty solid plan around that, and we're able to target some specific needs that we can address through the targeted professional development that Ken and Carol will plan. And as of right now, I will be able to participate in at least part of that with the teachers and support in that way.
Okay.
Any additional questions from the team? Michelle, do you have anything of us that you'll need additional support in moving forward?
I don't. I feel like I know the people to reach out to if something does come up, and that we have a lot of people working with us and supporting us right now, which is appreciated. And that's, helping to give us just a broader picture and then dig deeper based on that as far as next steps go.
All right. Well, Michelle, thank you for the update. Maintain your status report for us.
Okay.
So when we circle back, we'll lift it up from here and keep it going.
All right. Sounds
all right.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Next time.
Maybe.
Does he need to unmute? Can you hear me, Sean?
I can hear you, Andre. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, good. All right. So, Sean, we're going to show your status update. And so if you will speak through that for us, let us know where we are. Any additional supports that you need. You have team members that are on the call. So we're going to listen as you walk us through and let us know where we are and anything else that you may need. The team will ask questions if they need clarification. All right.
Thanks, Andre. So within our requested strategic response needs, the first two are around written expression. We asked for 2 hours of extended after-school structured weekly collaborative planning, and that did begin on December 2nd. We have 12 teachers participating. It's supported through myself, my assistant principal, my teaching partner, and Jim Hogan is supporting with math as well. It's going to continue through March, and it's, the first two meetings we've had have been very successful. Teachers have been able to thoughtfully plan, analyze exemplars, unpack standards, and it just gives them the structure to be able to plan effectively with our resources. And so we are definitely meeting our goal with that need right now. The second need was around focusing on the Common Core shifts, the language demands, rigorous tasks, and written expression. On December 6th, we had the opportunity to have a literacy walk with many representatives from the district. Elizabeth Fitzgerald, teaching partner, Dalia Mohammed, some SPED representatives, Carol Dallas from GT. And we did a literacy walk of all of our classrooms and determined that although most of our teachers were providing grade level content to all students, we didn't see a lot of differentiation for the many different language levels that we have, as well as challenging material, more rigorous for our GT students and special education students. And so based on that learning walk, we are engaging in professional development in the second half of the year around how to differentiate for students without losing the rigor of the grade level standards. And we'll have all of those representatives who are mentioned on the literacy walk. They'll be joining us on the 6th to do a consultancy protocol with all of our teachers, ensuring that all students have access points to the content, but that they're also differentiated and in expected outcomes for the content. And so that is definitely on track as well. Within the second need around tiered instruction, we talked about professional development for differentiating for GT and above readers. That's being addressed in the previous need that I just talked about. And then finally, within after-school tutoring to target groups, that was unfortunately not funded, and so that one has not been, that has not started. So that is where Linnell is with strategic response.
All right, any questions from the team, any clarifications?
I just have one clarification. Sean, I know in our conversations we talked about the funding streams in order to support the first one. In the notes it says it was funded through Northwest Community Funding. I made a specific request to Andre to insert more money in my core budget as a result, so it truly was strategic. It's just minor detail, but it truly came from strategic response based on a specific request to Andre.
Thanks for the clarification, Gary. Yeah, we're meeting you guys halfway on that funding, so thank you.
Correct. Yep. And can you talk through your diagnostic data that shows indications of progress? I see the notes below. Can you talk through that with the team?
Well, much of the strategic response are things that are going to be supporting the data that we found from our mid-year. So I don't want to say that it's a result of what's been happening, but it is the work that we are moving forward with that I talked about is in response to the data that we're seeing. So our diagnostic preliminary data overall in grades 2nd through 5th grade, at the beginning of the year, we had 6% proficiency in language arts, and this December mid-year, we're at 22% proficiency. Within math proficiency, we started at 12%, and at the middle of the year, we're at 25%. However, diving into the data, we're not seeing as much growth as we need to be seeing from some of our students who are identified with special needs. Our GT students aren't growing as much, and we have many language learners who aren't growing as much as other students. And so that's why we are designing the PD that we're designing to support those students so that teachers are addressing those gaps within their content. Same thing with our interim data. I can't see it on my screen, but language arts went from proficiency from 10%. You guys can read that there. And then in math, 19% to 35%. And so we are seeing gains, but we're not seeing the gains that we expect, and we're not seeing it from all students. And so that's where our attention is going to go in the next semester, is how are we really meeting the needs of those students who definitely need that differentiation during the school day.
Great.
Any additional questions from those that are on the call? All right, Sean, anything else that you need from us as we get ready for a second semester?
No, just the continued support from the district personnel who have identified, who have been very willing to support us, and we appreciate it.
All right, if you just keep us updated via your status report, that'd be perfect.
All right. Thanks, Andre.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Go ahead and get started. We're gonna bring in your status report. And so if you'll speak to the team via those specific areas and let us know what additional supports you may need, and we'll pause when you give an opportunity. The team will ask questions or get clarification, and then we'll move from there. All right?
Okay.
All right.
In terms of the planning with Kyle, that's going really well. He's always here consistently. He is meeting with our teachers. Right now, we're kind of focused on increasing students' overall typing skills because we're finding that that's just a support that our kids need. So he is going into, I think just about every grade level has responded to having him come in during a grade level time to support with how to add that to a station per se, or some strategies to support during the day with increasing some of that typing. In terms of replacing some of our computers, I feel like the more we dig into replacing the computers, we're finding that there's still continued issues with either the ones that we're replacing, and then just, it just takes time and energy, and the person that was in that position last year is no longer here, and we're just finding a lot of gaps that I was unaware of because that just really wasn't my focus last year. So it's a slow process, but we've started with 345, so 345 is good. Now we're just working on the rest of the building, replacing those old Acers, and then we had to purchase a bunch of Chrome carts because the Chrome carts that we had didn't necessarily fit the new computers. So it was just one of those funky little situations that can't really anticipate, but we're planning for it. I was thankful that I had added money into my budget for the past 2 years to replace some of the technology on top of tech renewal funds. So I guess that was a strategic move, but again, it's still not enough, but we will get there. In terms of instruction and curriculum, we did really well with, let me see, our iReady data in terms of ELA. We were able to, I think all but one classroom moved +5 in green. So moving those kids into proficiency or on or above grade level. So every classroom had +5 or higher, with the exception of one. I want to give a little shout out to my 3rd grade team. I had one teacher increase her green 45% and decrease her reds by 39%. Sorry about that. So
it's okay, really.
Sorry, my phone's talking to me. So they've been doing really well, and we asked them yesterday or in PLCs on Tuesday, just what are they doing that maybe some other grade levels are not doing? And at the end of the day, they are consistent with meeting with groups. That's never an issue with them. They are continually pushing the station work that we're supporting them with. So those are some of the differences. In math, I'm not as happy with math as I was in reading, but the good news is that we know how to close gaps in this building. Everybody had more than 5% changes in their red category on iReady, but we're not moving kids into the green. And I think our root cause is we're over scaffolding for kids. So we're going to be doing some work around lesson planning, scripting I-dos, videotaping teachers in terms of listening for what scaffolds they are putting in place, and then how are they scaffolding back up to the standards, to the grade level standard. So it's fine to put scaffolds in place, but if you're not scaffolding back up to the grade level standard, then we're going to see these gaps in our proficiency. But on a positive note, we are able to close gaps. So we're doing that through station work, and just supporting every teacher with what that proficiency needs to look like and sound like. So that's where we're at with curriculum and instruction. So Melanie and Jen and I are really going to be digging into, and Susan digging into that for second semester, and obviously keeping a close eye on reading and writing as well. Writing, that is our SLO, and I don't have the data in front of me right now, but I need to look at time 1, time 2 in terms of constructive response. Teachers are doing the Google Classroom weekly in 3, 4, 5 with constructive responses, and that's also part of their SLO. So we're really just making sure that students are able to respond to text in a using evidence to justify those answers. Classroom needs, in terms of our libraries, I was able to spend about $5,000 to boost our libraries in the classroom with 6 packs of books that were high interest, but at those more beginning reading levels. So A through M, I believe, is what we got. We have now stamped those. Those are in classrooms. Teachers are using them. We also were able to purchase with our money some decodable text for kindergarten, first and second, just so students have some opportunities to see their 95% skills carrying into their station work. We are still struggling in terms of our reading, like our resource room. So what we have done to start that is started to pull old text from the shelves, and we were confirmed in our thinking that we need to pull texts that are irrelevant, because we were able to find some texts that were very outdated, very inappropriate, and very irrelevant to today's society and the kids that we serve. So that's definitely a growing need. Julie and Shelley came out a couple weeks ago, a few weeks back, and gave us some really good ideas on just kind of how to start. And one of the things that we are considering is building our reading resource room around the Wonders themes, and then divide and conquer by text level, so that whenever teachers are in that Wonders theme, they can go into the resource room and pull text that they need in order across that theme. And since the building does similar themes, then those books already can be used as scaffolds as well. And the other thing we did was Kevin got in touch with me in terms of ebooks, and he sent 2 of his people out, Glenda and Denise, and they came and we actually spent an entire day in PLCs, and they showed all of our teachers how to access books, how to get kids logged in, and what access they have, books that they could order, so on and so forth. So we had a very increased, spiked from like 2 checkouts in one day to about 200 or over after the week after they came out for PLC. So we are definitely starting and moving in the right direction. But again, I think that's still something that we are in need of. In terms of supports, let's see if I can get, I don't know how to get your, one of the things that we would like to see continued here is around our STEM classroom. We are just seeing so much collaboration, conversation, students using 21st century skills, kids being able to problem solve together as a team. What does a team really look like? How do you navigate being in a team? And so that STEM classroom has just been an amazing support for our kids, and being able to get them to openly dialogue with their friends about whatever problem that they are solving. I think we need to dig back into math again in terms of just the supports that teachers need. So that's going to be a shift in terms of the work that we're going to do, but not taking our eye off of ELA either. So ELA will continue being coached individually with Susan obviously Jen and myself, and PLCs, at least for part of third quarter, will be around standards-based math, and looking potentially into maybe doing some unbound ed work with our teams around math instruction, just to give us some more leverage, because I'm just not happy with where our scores are right now. In terms of where we were last year within iReady, at the end of last year, we only had 14% in the green. This year we have 10, so that's good. However, we can do much better. And at the end of last year, our iReady scores in ELA were 15, and now they're 22. So I'm excited to see that, but our interims also showed a gap in math as well. So just something that we definitely need to address and go back and talk about. And I think that is really, oh, budget. I honestly, to be completely frank and transparent, I absolutely have no idea how much money we have, how much money in surplus we have, or negative money that we have. The budget reports that we were asked to pull from Aaron, I just can't interpret. I've asked questions to whoever, other principals in my community and people that I usually go to see if they could support, and they're kind of in the same boat as I was. It's just, I really just need, as a principal, I just need a report that says, this is how much money you have, this is how much money you have in each of those, like READ Act, CLDE, that kind of thing, in your supplies money. I just need like that kind of a budget sheet, not every single month and the variance and the actuals. I just, and I think my secretary, I know, is having a hard time reading that as well. So I don't know if there's something that needs to be different, or we need to have some sort of tutorial or something, but as a principal, I feel like we need to know what our budgets are on any given day, and I don't have that, which makes me a little nervous. So that's really about it. Do you have questions for me?
All right, so for the team, if you have any questions, this is a good opportunity to ask. All right, Jen, so when I look at the meeting goals with obstacles, are those obstacles the result of something that the division's doing and getting in the way, or is it something else?
I believe it's something else. I just believe overall it's a instructional and coaching support needed. So really, Melanie, she's been a tremendous support to our building and to Susan, just really continuing that work. And it's just obstacles because that's where we are with our data.
Okay, so it's not.
So no, it's not any.
That we are causing those through our
No.
schools. You just are
Nope.
overcoming obstacles. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I will have that conversation about budget on a much larger scale this afternoon. So you know it's going to come up. All right, Jen, thank you. Anything else you need from us as we move forward into next semester?
No, I think just continuing those lines of communication, and everybody's pretty open, but I'm also pretty forthcoming in seeking out those people when they are here. So I know exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. So when Melanie is here once a week, I would say about 90% of the time sitting with Susan and Melanie around those planning and coaching conversations. So just continuing that and supporting our teachers with whatever the needs of the students are.
All right, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, bye-bye. That report, at the end of the conversation, our team may have questions for you. And then you also have an opportunity to tell us what it is that you may need moving forward. All right?
Sounds great.
All right.
All right. So we were assigned an ESS coach through a differentiated support system, actually prior to the request, but it was a request that we would have also looked at, knowing that that was, if that was available, being able to make that request, because we saw with our CMAS scores from last year that it's a targeted area that we wanted to focus on. Through the coaching process, we have seen some shifts within the dynamic that our special ed teachers are providing to students. One issue was the range of our mild to moderate students and trying to effectively schedule around their individual needs. And so that coaching has been really supportive in that scheduling, and teachers have been able to develop much tighter schedules. And then the instructional design of what's provided during those lessons. I had the opportunity to observe a teacher that was having some challenges with that scheduling aspect, and also differentiating for the students that were coming in. And her and the coach have put together some really strong plans for supporting. It was an accomplished lesson plan that we saw from this teacher. It was probably her strongest observation. It was a full observation to date. And so the collaboration with the coach has been really positive. We also saw, one thing that isn't necessarily targeted through the instructional design, but just the interpersonal interactions that we're looking to help kind of shape with one of the teachers as well. And the coach has really supported in that role as well. So that goal, I feel like it's definitely meeting the goals and having the impact that we were looking for. Moving to the next one, the mental health supports, kind of the district-wide DSS support. We feel like it's meeting the goals. We definitely have significant, greater number of students getting mental health support through our counselor. Also, we have a large newcomer population, and our counselor does speak Spanish, and so she's able to host some really impactful groups for students who are brand new to the country and learning within our school system. The one question, the notes that I put around, we do know that with a lot of the new rollouts, with all the new mental health supports, there's significant trainings that our mental health supports are getting pulled for, and was looking to see if there's a possibility of maybe if there's any discussion around how to roll out more job embedded training, and maybe even having sometimes some brief synopsis of what the trainings are, sent out to the principals, because sometimes we just hear about a quick training that, they're going to be out of the building for, 2 half days or 2 days. And, we just kind of say okay to it, but don't really have the opportunity to dig in and look into what those specific trainings are. And so maybe, receiving some of those agendas or what the differences should be and how they do their role once they come back. Might be something to look into. As far as January 31st, we're looking, applied for the ability to write 2 classes for kindergarten through 5th grade teachers. That was approved. And so then the 2 professional learnings that we were looking at the time I requested was math professional learning and planning based on formative assessments and bridges. That one is going well. I am going to insert a link here pretty soon. But it's definitely meeting the goals. We had Jim Hogan come out and plan with our Kenton team, and we looked at a protocol that looks at bridges, a planning structure for teachers to have some autonomy within the instructional resource to best plan to have students meet the highest leverage standards within the bridges, how they're laid out within the rigor of the unit assessments. At the time, I remember talking about the language objective implementation that actually corresponded with, it was close to a day that we actually had another half day with our staff. And so we rolled that one up because we wanted to implement that a little sooner. And so we are looking at that second half PD day being around small group planning. And so that's the goal has been met in the terms of getting the approval to run that group, but the content is going to be based on the small group planning for teachers. And then this last one was kind of a general statement around the more time allotted for planning immediately after lunch during the DDI day. I felt it was, it met the goals. We had, a strong opportunity to dig into the data. However, I did feel a little bit in the afternoon, a lot of the planning time focused on that a reteach lesson rather than kind of a reteach 2-week plan, and then maybe even looking forward with a 6-week plan into the next unit and thinking about a full day. I'm wondering if, possibly be able to in the future look at almost that second half of the day, being a little bit more dedicated toward some planning, and maybe even digging into looking at the next interim and starting, some of that planning and having time for that. I felt like some of the groups were definitely ready to kind of begin that kind of action, but then sometimes the agenda items slowed that down a little bit to dig into that planning. Also, there was one additional thing that was on here that was approved, and that was to move RMC to the next year. And Garrett was able to work with that to get that approved. And so we feel like that's, positive. I think in year 3, that'll be a great thing to kind of get the status of the school, but also, be able to focus in on these areas for this year.
All right, any questions from the team?
Drew, this is Baez. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Because there was a lot of planning and intentionality behind making sure teachers had opportunities to look at interim 3. And so was that something you heard across the board for all your teachers? Was that based on a session that you were in? I would just like to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was in 2nd through the 5th grade and checking in with those ones. And I know that there was a portion in one of those sessions where it seemed like it'd be a great time to dig into planning, and then they kind of had an extra PD item where they talked about like workstations a little bit. And so it was like a little extra PD that came in right around that, 1:30 or 2 o'clock time. And so that kind of interfered a little bit with getting into plan. And I was in 2nd grade, and there was some planning for the reteach, but didn't necessarily get to go into the next unit. And so I think a lot of it was planned a little bit more on the reteach, and I don't think there is substantial time to dig into looking at the next interim and kind of that next unit.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? So, Drew, quick question. What
Yes.
additional supports, if any, do you need from us as we get ready for our next semester?
I think we're feeling pretty good. We actually were just able to get peer-based program for our students, which we're excited. We were able to give a Chromebook to 3rd through 5th graders. That's something, we might have asked, but we were finding a way to get some money. We have an interventionist full-time starting next semester through a Connect for Success grant, who's going to be able to provide some additional resources here at the school. And so feeling pretty good about where we're at and where we're moving and the supports that are in place. So don't have any requests at this time.
All right. So, Drew, thank you. Keep your
Yes,
status
absolutely.
reports updated so we can follow along as we get ready for the next report out.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
To us via the status update. We have folks on the call, so if they have questions when you're done with that, then we can ask those.
Okay.
And you can then let us know what we need to do after that.
Okay. So do you have my screen? Is that what you guys
Yep.
are looking at? Or is that your screen?
That's yours.
Okay, great. I'm thinking.
Well, actually Sylvia's.
Okay, I was like, wow. I'm like, okay, I had it up. So Sylvia, if you can go to December 6th, we're gonna look just at a few, thinking about the status update. The first goal, our two big goals that you have there within the professional development. The first one really did center in and around our Mustang U and how we looked at science, because really, that was a target area that we've been struggling with. One of the things that we talked about, that it wasn't at that point on December 6th, that we weren't meeting the goal. I really don't want to necessarily read you, the piece there, but what I'd like to do is have us kind of start to think about, as we looked at this goal and some of the things that were being provided, what we really would love to try to see is that having more of a high impact, because like what was listed of just having Sam attend some Mustang U's and like planning with some of our teachers, yes, that will be an okay strategy, but one of the things that we really wanted to hone in on was seeing if she might be able to really think about how to work with our content lead that is here on a obviously more consistent basis, and seeing if she can really develop him inside of the curriculum, even the resource, as in resources that he may need to order or get, and that he can then spread that through. So that was kind of one of the things that we, and still is, if you look at the current one on the 20th, that just hasn't really changed. We haven't really had any impact inside of that. I do know that Sam did come on, let's see, I think I put it in there. It's hard to, I wish I was navigating this a little bit better, but that she did come twice, both in November, right after she had kind of got this information, and came to 2 of our Mustang U's. But, that would be something where I'd like to build the capacity inside of my content leader. And that's something that we would like to shift. One of the things that we started out with there on the 6th, the next one is the mental health goal. So one of the things that was talked about that was going to be provided was mental health and counseling services, and that we would it says continued technical assistance with curriculum and school-wide screening for social emotional health. That was something that you guys had said that you would kind of help with, or that we had talked about. And that is happening, as in we do have, and we've implemented our our base curriculum as well as our second step. And you can see inside of like the 13th and the 20th, we're actually on the green on that. So if you want to go into the 20th for that one, Sylvia, that would be awesome. Because as you can see, there's some growth here. We've been meeting the goal since the 6th. And I started with the 6th, Andre, or anybody, is just because really getting all of the details, all of the information, and then really tracking it, that's kind of where we started. But that's where inside of this goal, we're really making ground. The only thing, and that was why we were in the yellow on the 6th, the only thing that we haven't gotten or haven't done was the universal screener. And so inside of the screener, we will be having to do that next year. It's just we've missed the cutoff, missed some of the, you've got to really communicate with your community inside of that as we're learning. We just didn't know all of those pieces. And so that's going to be something that here this second semester, we're going to start to really connect with Jessica Omirde and her team to really set up and getting all the paperwork for the screener ready so that we can send that home next year and those kind of pieces. But right now in our second step on Wednesday, it's Wednesday, Thursdays, we everyone in our school is getting the curriculum. And so you can see on the 13th and on the 20th kind of just what our students are learning inside of the different weeks. So, with our 6th grade, Yeah, you'll have to go up a little bit, but yeah, you can stay there. It's fine on the 20th. But within, we're starting, or we've been doing that. The other thing that I want to highlight that we started was we realized that we've been really looking at our students for social emotional and how we're working, they're working with each other differently, but we actually have now started something with our staff. And so we are doing a book study on Dare to Lead by Renee Brown. And so each week inside of our Mustang U, that is actually part of our kind of mental health and counseling and how we're working together as a staff. And so what you'll see from the 6th into the 13th and on to the 20th, you'll see kind of more towards the bottom inside of that goal, what we're doing with Dare to Lead. And each week we've been starting out, or there's a topic in how we kind of conversate with each other, but also build trust, because that was something inside of the TLCC data that we saw, that there was some lack of trust with each other, but also with us as admin. And so we're diving into that. So that's going really well, and really loving that, what we're doing inside of it. Then if you look down inside of our PD part, it should be, let's go to this, if you can go back to the 6th again, Sylvia. So the next, where it said support. So this, as we looked at it within the support that we had, there were different areas that the team had said, hey, this is how we can support you. And in that first part, we started looking at the behavioral systems support team. And within the behavioral support team, they really did, they came out, they had met with my AP that now had just had her baby, and as well as my dean. And at first it was a little bit different because I just didn't get to be as a part of that as I would have liked to. And at first it felt like we may not have had alignment. And so while walkthroughs were going, because that's where it's saying we're meeting our goals with a little bit of obstacles. At first it was trying to make sure that we did have alignment with each other and what we were doing inside of that. And so that was where it was interesting too, that the people that had came in on a part of that team, like Christine Lovin Santos and Jamila, there's a few on that team, Jake, but that there were some preconceived notions around our current state and our baseline data that they were gathering. It just kind of felt like that. But then as we really dove in, you'll see on the 13th and then even on the 20th that this is actually really going well. We're getting some really great data for that. Actually, if you go onto the 20th, that'd be great. Yep, within our behavioral support team, it's right above the red, not meeting, but we're really meeting that goal. Yep, thank you for just noting that. We've enjoyed doing the walkthroughs. We've been getting a lot of data inside of how do we help our teachers. Our teachers have really responded to this. And so just thank you to that team for their continued effort, but also helping us gather that data and going through that. The other piece here within not meeting, so I still haven't seen Sam, that one thing that part of aligning her with Mustang U or even my teaching partner. So she did meet with my teaching partner, Amber Swain, towards the beginning. And then they had made appointments to go and do science observations together, but it was just never rescheduled. So we're just kind of really still lacking there in how to respond. Now, Malia has been working with my teaching partner inside of teaching or having some coaching question or conversations for some of our new science teachers. So she has been helping, but I think, my teaching partner really would love to really dive in, especially with Sam, around specific look-fors inside of that content to help us within that goal. So we just would like to have that go a little bit different, but Melina has really been helping within building our teaching partners' capacity, but also within those conversations. Also, Ken Jensen has been an amazing support. Especially my teaching partner is mostly a literacy teacher. And so inside of that, she had some mathophobia a little bit, but Ken has really supported by coming in and coaching with her, but also going in and doing some observations. We actually, this week, it was really powerful. Ken and my teaching partner, and then 4 of my teachers all did a observation of another one of my math teachers here in the building around collaboration and structured talk. And they all were able to give feedback and really actually went back to Mustang U and plan lessons inside of how to implement the structures that they saw. And so Ken's really been really critical inside of that work. So super excited about that. And then one of the things that he had noticed after observing that teacher is that we'll probably get, it's called VoiceBox, I think, or it's a STEM program that my 6th grade teachers will be piloting based off of his work that he's been doing with my teaching partner and this team. So it's been very positive so far. I think just a couple tweaks, like I was saying, if we can really partner in with Sam. I know that she had mentioned to my teaching partner that, as well as to myself, that we're getting a new curriculum, I guess, or something to that effect for science. And so there's just kind of this, how do we support in the meantime, and getting us to the new curriculum. So I guess, just really wanting to make sure that, we get some support in that area, but so far so good. It's been great.
Okay, at this particular point, and any team members have questions, clarifications?
Hey, Marcella, this is Baez.
Hey, Baez.
How are you? For the SAM portion, in terms of wanting to kind of shift her support to working with the lead for science, is that a conversation that's already happened, or is that one that needs to happen?
It's one that needs to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, Marcella, it's Wandami. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Wandami.
Hi. So I just wanted to talk to you about the system support team members.
Yeah.
I know you guys are in the PBIS cohort. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. And so I know that you had mentioned from weeks prior about just kind of what that support looks like and collaborating and being aligned with school leadership. And I see that you do have that for the 20th as meeting the goal, but I did notice that at the bottom, you kind of still are reporting out about the alignment with the school leadership. Can you kind of tell me what you need that to look like? It sounds like maybe with you being on board with, the walkthroughs or them being in the building, or let me know what what you would like for that to look like.
Yeah. And actually and which is hard because it's not on my screen, but I can see this, but I can't pull up mine. But it's good. I think having a conversation is fine too. As I kind of went into a little bit, that first piece, I hadn't gotten to be a part of those conversations at first. And so it was kind of a little bit at first, I was worried that we weren't aligned at the same piece, and that what was the work at first, and that's where I attribute it a little bit to at that first part where my AP that was really working with them had been gone now, and so she, I couldn't check in to say, hey, are we aligned? Where are we at? What's going on? And so at first it did have that feel. But I'll tell you now, I've got, whether it be myself or one of my other APs that have gone in, and we go in and they've been able to go into those walkthroughs with them. I think at first it was hard too, because the rubric that we're using is not necessarily the look-fors that I am looking for, 100%, right? So I might we may say one of the things on there was talking about more positive narration around certain pieces. And some of it felt like some of the aspects into that rubric were more geared towards elementary rather than secondary, which is fine. I think we just had to talk that through as to what does that look like, right? Or what are some specifics here in our building versus just a generic rubric that is used all the time. Because I may not be really focusing in on a certain strategy that was in those rubrics. Have you seen those rubrics? I'm sure you have.
I have.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so that was kind of that first little piece of like, okay, so how is this aligning, or how are we using this rubric? Because this is a very generic rubric that I didn't create and that I didn't really necessarily have a part of. And so how are we utilizing that rubric that's more generic inside of that? So then as we've worked through and doing the walkthroughs, that's been something that has been a conversation piece. And so then that felt different versus when they first came in, here's the rubric and that's what we're using. And then it was like, and then as the conversation deepened, that's where it went different. So, which is great. One thing I didn't get to, and while you are on that subject of the PBIS and the support there, and yes, we are in the cohort, super excited. That'll be where we're on the 10th. I'll talk even more about that part and not just the walkthroughs, but we are going to be doing our huge rollout of our PBIS. We've got our LEAD posters, which LEAD is our new acronym about like how people behave throughout the building. And so super excited about that. We've got our positive rewards. Like there's a PBIS app that like we can give electronic points to kids throughout like all day based off of their ID. And so Christine Lovin Santos was just here yesterday. We were actually breaking out into different groups inside of how we're going to do our huge rollout when we come back from break. So that's been really, really positive on that note of rolling things out. So I can't wait to kind of do an update later to tell you guys how that's going.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that you're certainly in the loop with what is happening in your building from the team. And it sounds like from what you're saying that it's started a little rocky, but it's gotten much better to this point.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So Marcel, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you're able to see what I see, because I can see all of your status reports. So I want to go, just so for clarification for me and those folks that can see this, as I read the very first sentence, it says that we have received the supports as outlined in the strategic response memo. However, they have not been high impact.
Yes.
But then when I go to the mental health and counseling, and then I go to support, as I walk all the way down, are those responses that you have in those areas, which they should be, a result of our response, or is that just work that you're doing?
It has been a result of your response. And that's where in that comment of that piece, because right at the beginning where it says, inside of like the first responses that I'm looking at, that one of them said, Sam will reach out to my teaching partner to attend Mustang U planning session. Sam will attend PLC 2 times a week or quarter. So there were certain things that around that specific one inside of science, the Mustang U around science, some of the things that were outlined that Sam would do just didn't seem that, like, we started going, I don't know if that's the highest impact by having her necessarily attend two of our it's Thursday. Having her attend Mustang U planning sessions and just having like these very spot kind of like not very consistent times there would be the highest impact. And so what we were trying to do is say, okay, so for Sam inside of that one, the highest impact would really start to look at more of building my content lead, who could potentially do that and have that be more consistent if she works more with him rather, because that wasn't anything that was how would we respond. And so that's why we were trying to say this would be the piece that we would ask and have bias do. The rest of it is actually through these responses where you're saying, like inside of the responses, one of them was to have like Ken Jensen meet with John Boo to determine next steps. So like what happened within Ken Jensen's line, the next steps were to have him connect with my teaching partner and to have him keep going. So each one of these were based off of the responses that were listed out. And yes, I do believe the rest of those are are very high impact pieces. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
And so I think the team understands where we need to focus.
Okay.
And so moving forward, is there anything that you need from us as we get ready to go into next semester specifically?
I mean, if we can, making sure that we continue the help that we have been, like within Malia, within Ken Jensen, if we can just have that conversation like you were mentioning, that would be great to have, Sam being more of an impact there too, just because that isn't the field of specialty in my building, and that would be great to have her. But like Wanda May, your team has been, again, excellent as well to help us there. And so, I mean, just the continued help would be great for that.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope
thank
that you were able to give us feedback that you wanted us to hear. And I know that we will be responsive. So
Okay.
Looking forward to it. Maintain your status report. So as we continue this process, we can adjust where we need to.
Okay, perfect. Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
All right. Have a good
All right.
holiday. guys.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Hey, Jenny, and hey, Sandy. How are you?
It's ugly Christmas sweater day, so here we are.
All right. So we're going to show your update from your status report so these folks can see it. And what you probably need to do for us is to make sure we can see how well we're doing, right?
Okay.
So are we making progress and so forth? So I'll move out of the way and give you a chance to speak to it. And then we have questions. We'll ask and then figure out what we need to do moving forward.
Okay. Okay. So to start out, on the first one, there was a miscommunication because I didn't ask for any financial support to work with Two Partner because I've taken on that cost through my budget. But the work with them has been absolutely instrumental in our math growth. On the interims, every grade level experienced growth and met our goal that we had in our 90-day plan at this midpoint of the year. Our second grade gained 70, they scored 70.6%, and that was an overall gain of 36.5% overall growth. Third grade grew by or exceeded our goal by 11.4%. Fourth grade was by, do you remember? It was by, I think it was like 1.8%. And our only grade level that did not exceed the goal that we had set in our 90-day plan was fifth grade. But we know the whys behind that, and so we are addressing those as we speak. We've just had Two Partner here for the last 2 days doing unit planning and then daily planning with each grade level so that when we come back in January, all teachers are ready to hit the ground running. And so it has been an absolute positive support. As we talked about last time, we have some teachers that don't have firm understandings of grade level content. And so even today, part of a grade level was just spent on teachers doing the math and working with geo boards and figuring out, how we're going to use these tools to support student learning. But we have to make sure our teachers know how to do that first. So it's it is really tailored to each individual grade level needs and or what they need. And so it's been a very positive and supportive step, and we are above target in our goals. As far as along with iReady, overall this time last year, we were at 65% growth, and at this point we are at 77% growth at the midpoint. So all the work that the teachers have taken on, and they've taken on a tremendous amount of work and learning and just doing things differently, is paying off. The next point I would like to talk about, do we have questions right now before we move on, or should I continue? Hello?
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, okay, keep going. All right. The next point is something that has been absolutely positive for Laredo as well, is the work with Jake Potter. We did not have a consistent tier 1 behavior system, and that is causing some issues with, one, the messaging that we're sending to students, because we were all doing different things. So Jake has come in and looked at the system, and then we have a brand new dean, we have a brand new social worker, and our school psychologist is in her 2nd year. So we have a fairly new team. So he has really sat down and worked with us. He's supporting the dean. We meet on a weekly basis and review data, go over, the system. The staff has had voice in all of this. And so we have, with Jake's help, created a new behavior matrix, a behavior flow chart. And so we have done some scenarios. We've been having PD on this since October 2nd. And teachers, we've just kind of scrapped what we had and started over because nothing was effective. And so Jake's voice around this has been instrumental in helping us have some continuity, not only in between grade levels, but among grade levels. And so when we come back in January, we have a consistent tier 1 system that teachers will begin using with support. And we are very hopeful that our tier 1 behaviors will be addressed in a proactive way so that they don't become tier 2 and tier 3. So I just can't say enough about, one, the expertise and knowledge that Jake brings in this area and how supportive that he has been. I'm really hopeful that when we come back in January, we're all starting off working on the same system and kids get the same consistent message from all grade levels, from all paras, from specialists, that it will really help and help kind of curb some of our behavior that we see. Go ahead, you're next.
Okay. As far as, I'm going to jump down past the 3rd point just for a minute, because along with the support we're getting from Jake from the district, we're also getting support from Jamila Gordon. She is supporting our attendance team, which is an area of need. Laredo has historically run similar to some of the attendance data in the district, but we are trying to hit a goal of 96% average daily attendance throughout the course of the year. Heading into our 3rd quarter has been the toughest quarter for us attendance-wise. Last year we averaged at 89.7, I believe, for 3rd quarter. And we're looking to be real proactive and combat that. And bringing Jamila in has been a huge benefit already. Quarter 2 data last year hung right around 90% attendance. Right now for the entire quarter, we're averaging 93. So already she's been supportive to us and our team, looking at our systems, similar to what Jake has done for us, looking at where we can remediate the areas that aren't working, where we can replicate the areas that are working. And she's just been a real strong leader for this work. She and Verlene have also been very supportive and a specific family that we were having some pretty major attendance concerns about. So that's been very positive. We're looking to continue that partnership with her. As far as asks at this time, you'll see on the form for the EASI grant, we had applied for that to expand our work with 2 partners, knowing that 4th and 5th grade are major growth years, and considering the data that was generated last year from CMAS on math and the makeup of our team, because we have 4 new teachers to us on that team, we wanted to make sure that 4th grade was getting the support it needed to promote real strong growth in 4th grade. And so we had asked, 2 Partner had offered a coach to us, and we had asked for this grant to pay for that. And we did not get the grant. She is working with our 4th grade team. And like Sandy mentioned, they were the team that we were discussing earlier today, who are learning the content, learning the best instructional practices. Brianna, the coach, has been absolutely instrumental in pushing their practice and their knowledge. But without this grant, then that budgetary concerns falls on the school. So the ask for that is $17,000.
Those are our talking points. I will say with the ask for the financial support, working with 2 Partner again, there was a miscommunication or a misunderstanding of the ask. That wasn't the ask. The ask through that was through working with 2 Partner. Teachers have discovered how powerful it is to have a common plan time for math. What we've discovered in several grade levels is we start at the unit level and we look globally, and then we backwards plan until we get to the daily plans. Working on those daily plans have allowed teachers to see the flow of the week and
to really implement the curriculum with stronger fidelity than we have before.
And so that is a change. So through that, the ask was to pay teachers at per diem for an hour after contract time a week to have that grade level math plan. So that was a misconception or a miscommunication on the form. And so we've spoken about our points. Is there anything that we need to provide clarity or answer any questions?
So, team, if you have any questions, now's a good time to ask. Yeah, so for
Hi,
me, go ahead, Bias.
Hey, Sandy, this is Bias.
Okay.
So since the grant wasn't awarded to Laredo to cover that support around the math coaching, like how can we help you within the support structures that are in the district to execute that work?
At this point, I am paying for it with my budget, but it was an unplanned money amount to spend. But, I've taken it on because I think it's so important, because that 4th grade year is vital for us. I would just ask through if there's a DDS or any other funding available that could pay for all or part. That is the ask.
Okay, but if there's not any funds, what can we do within the support structures that exist within the district? Because I know that Jim actually worked and used to coach one of the folks that are part of that coaching that you were looking for. And so is there anything that we can provide within the constructs of the people support that we have at the district?
Okay, thanks for the clarity. Absolutely, Jim is very knowledgeable and a very respected member of the district team. My concern is that this happens on a weekly basis, and I know that Jim has the whole district, and so it's so important to me to make sure that this is consistent and that they hear a consistent message and a consistent voice to move forward. Could Jim take this on? I have no doubt. He certainly has the expertise and the knowledge. My concern would be his availability, to just be, totally honest, because he supports every school, and asking for an hour a week, I don't know if that's huge.
Because the coach is here all day with our teachers, so yeah.
It's an 8 to 3:30 day every week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Baez.
No problem. Thanks.
So I am still confused about what you want with two partners, right?
Okay, well, yeah.
I don't know. I either you pay for it and you want to be reimbursed, or you pay for a little bit and you want a lot more. I'm completely confused, and we need to, via Sue Lynn, get this all worked out.
All right.
I can't respond right now because I don't know where we are.
Sure,
So
and I get it.
you have to make it plain.
Okay, here it is plain. I'm paying for two partners to come in here monthly and work with every grade level to plan. And so that is not an ask. The ask is because we didn't get the EASI grant, the ask is to pay for some or all of the fourth grade coach. And another ask is to pay teachers at their per diem for an hour over contract for weekly math planning. That's the ask. Sorry that wasn't clear.
If you can put this together and just let me know what that looks like.
Thank you.
And
Andre, one thing I've had a problem with is I have had my secretary reach out to budget and to everyone we can think of, and I have not been able to get solid per diem rates. So I'm just taking an average. At the beginning, at our first strategic response, it was going to be about 17,000, but now since we've gone through weeks, it would only be about, I'm estimating between 13 and 14. And so, but I can't give a solid number because I can't get that information. And I have tried valiantly. So if there's any help I could get in that, so I could give an absolute solid concrete number, that would be helpful.
Okay, like I said, if you could just let me know what I'm going to be communicating back to the team, because that will help me.
Okay, thank you.
Be more specific about what can and can't happen from our end, because without it, I'm just guessing.
Absolutely, and I feel that's where I am too, and it's not a comfortable space to be.
Sandy, this is Starla. Have you checked with HR to help determine the per diem rates?
I know Sally's reached out to several different departments or divisions. I'm not sure what all she did. I just asked her to just problem solve and check with as many people as she could. I can check with her though.
Any additional questions? All right, so continue to follow up for us with the status report, right? That way we can monitor progress of how we are responding to the things that we've committed to.
Okay.
And then that way, next time we get together, then we'll be able to see any adjustments we need to make, whatever else needs to happen.
Great.
And also make sure you get that information to me so I can respond.
Certainly will. Thank you. And
all right, thank you.
What we've gotten so far has been great.
All right, have a good one.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. Can you hear me? I can't hear you at this point. Check your mic. Back in. I still can't hear you. You want to try to come back in again?
Logged out, and then it said I needed to do an update, so sorry about that.
So we're going to show your status report so you can walk us through.
Perfect.
And if the team has any questions or clarifications, that'd be great. And then at the very end, if they have anything that you specifically need us to focus on moving in the second semester, we'll be ready to do it. So I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Okay. So the first support was around ESS. And my reflection on that is I think we're really making good strides with our mild mod program. I think I overestimated the readiness of our mild mod teachers. And so it's been great to work closely with Patrick and Angela to just kind of figure out where those adult learners are and what our vision is and where we need them to be, and just working in incremental steps. We have a stronger plan moving into second quarter that includes ensuring that both teachers are part of PLCs. There were some scheduling conflicts with one of them, so working with Angela to overcome that. And then making sure that we're having data conversations together. So one thing that I learned is that ESS would have data conversations with mild mod teachers, but Rachel and I were not a part of those. And so starting in January, we're going to be in attendance in those monthly meetings. Also just getting some clarity on our end as to what the data expectations are for students with disabilities in the programming. So I think Rachel and I have been learning a lot with Patrick and Angela, and then using that knowledge to help us figure out what our next steps need to be. I would say with our DLC program, we are at the right numbers now. We're at a 2-to-1 ratio, which is incredible and very generous, actually, of Rachel Browning and her team. So I appreciate that. Now that we kind of have that straightened out and we have the right numbers and the right student to staff ratio, I guess, we're really ready to start working on instruction. And so I think there are still some next steps. One thing that I'm going to ask for is that Andrea Mann come and meet with Rachel Sellers and I on a regular basis so that we really clearly understand the instructional model of that DLC room and the expectations around data collection and progress monitoring of IEP goals. Let's see. Moving on to the lead teaching partner. Lori's been terrific. She's really been focused on ELA and our work there. And we still see in our data that we have a long way to go with ELA, but we have some mid-course corrections that we're going to make. And so Lori and I will connect around that and how we can use her support to strengthen our system and not just working with that teaching partner. Let's see. Yeah, so Lori has been terrific. We've had our critical triangle meetings with her, and so some of those structures that are set up that make it really easy for us to connect and touch base periodically is terrific. One just small thing that I actually just added last night, we're trying to leverage some data points, like we use iReady for our SLOs for licensed staff, and that doesn't really work in kindergarten. And so I've been asking some folks in DOEL and then Lori Stack as well, what would be some rigorous goals that we can set around PALS data for our kindergartners, because that is such a critical piece of data in that it determines if students go on read plans or not. So I really want to leverage that with teachers through the evaluation process, but I'm just not sure what those targets would be for students at different starting points. Moving on to assessment literacy, I think we're fine with that. We had the training in the spring, and then doing our own internal DDI process with the math interim has allowed us just in kind of almost one-on-one or three-on-one settings with teachers to just learn more and more about the reports as we sit together and learn about that. One thing that we have not yet been able to do, and I think this might be what EduClimber is designed to do, is to look at students across data sets. So I know we can compare how students performed on interim 1 to interim 2, but we're really curious about students with disabilities, students that have been in program for CLDE for a long time. How does iReady compare with how kids are performing on interim? And we just don't have that quite streamlined yet. So that's something that we're interested in learning about to just make that data piece happen a little more smoothly. Moving on to MTSS supports. I'll talk specifically about attendance. Jamila has been a terrific support as we're trying to get that online. As you know, with many buildings, we don't have like an attendance person on our staff. And so it kind of is a second duty for many people. And so helping people just to understand the importance of this and create systems that allow this work to happen consistently and systematically, really, that we have specific points in time where we stop and we send letters or certain things that would trigger a home visit. So getting that system online. We just met this morning, actually, and I feel a lot better about the work, but our attendance rate is way too low. Our chronic and moderate and at risk, I think our chronic and moderate, we're at about 30%, which is way too much. So we have some good next steps moving into January and even some things people are going to do tomorrow. So in terms of learning walks with ICs and other instructional experts, just having that weekly time with Carol is terrific. Carol is a great coach in that she leaves space and time for me to problem solve through some of my leadership challenges or unique situations that come up where I really just need the advice of an experienced principal or principal manager. And then we also prioritize time being in classrooms. We're sitting in PLCs. And so I really appreciate that. And she always has a next step. I think it's how she shows love, and I appreciate that. So my thinking is stretched every time she's in the building. And then Schools by Design, that wasn't an indicated support. It was something that I had talked about in my initial request. And it's really just comes down to us trying to find more and more ways to be together as a staff in professional learning. So I don't know that there's an easy solution to that, but I'm curious to see how the negotiations come out and how the contract looks next year and how that might give us more time. And then we continue to problem solve in the building around how do we get more creative about how to engage in the professional learning that we need at Virginia Court. So I think that's it. Really appreciate all of the support that we have received. One other shout out I'll give right now. I just met with my preschool facilitator in a post-observation conference, and she talked about how supportive Amy Wallen has been in helping her as a brand new facilitator really feel like she's gaining the skills she needs to work with our 3- and 4-year-olds. So I appreciate Amy's weekly support of Hannah in that way. So I think that's it.
All right, so for the team, do you all have any specific questions or clarifications? So Kim, next steps for us, any specific requests outside of what you've already communicated?
I don't think so. I think Carol will tell you I'm pretty forthcoming about asking for the things that I need, so I'll continue to do so, but I feel like people have been pretty responsive as things come up. I think that one thing about PALS would, there's some timeliness to it where really SLOs have time restraints, and so we need to get going on that and make sure that we have those correct targets for teachers. So that would be one thing that I have been asking about and have not yet received an answer. But I would say everything else that I've asked for, I get a pretty quick response.
All right. Well, thank you. I wish I could take credit for what Carol's doing there, but that's not strategic for me. That's embedded. So I can't own that one. She's doing a great job with you. So thanks for that. We'll keep pushing forward. And if you would, just update the status report for us.
Yes.
So we can follow along, and when we circle back, it gives us a chance to see if we're moving and making progress. All right?
Absolutely. It's on my calendar to do weekly now, so you'll see that coming up. Okay?
Thanks a bunch.
Great. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Okay. Listen, we're going to display your status report.
I just lost you. You
I
there?
still see you and hear
okay.
you.
All right.
So
good.
we will display your status report and allow you to walk us through it. Team members are on the call, so if there are questions that they have, they'll ask, or any clarifications. And then we can get right to what next steps you need from us to address any issues or challenges or new requests you may have. All right.
Okay, great.
All right.
Okay, so the first request I had was just to follow up with the year 2 of the DSS money to support with backwards planning and ELA and math. I received notification on November 22nd that it was approved. So I started using the funds immediately in the month of December for my other request was having the Wonders consultant come in. So we were able to provide subs for fourth grade, 5th grade, 1st and 2nd grade to work with the Wonders consultant. And then I also reorganized my budget to bring in 2 partners consultants who work with 4th and 5th grade teachers. And then my TP was able to follow up working with kinder through 3rd grade teachers with math unit planning. So that money came in handy for using it in December. Okay. So my other request was in the area of the Wonders consultant. So I was able to work with Julie and Melanie to organize what the day would look like to have Katie to come in. And Julie was able to bring Katie in on an additional day. So my TP and myself, along with my AP, were able to sit down with her and just really dive into the curriculum and connect where we are with our unit planning and writing using Wonders, because we had just a lot of questions because Wonders writing isn't as extensive as, it's just part of the core program. So we worked with Katie on December 11th, and then she came back on December 16th and worked with 4 of our grade levels. And that was really supportive. So now we have some next steps starting 2nd semester. So in addition to what I requested, Jim Hogan has also supported with our math planning. He came out yesterday to support my TP Chris with 3rd grade. And then Wendy Dorick, she has been providing support with my preschool teacher who needs, she's struggling with scheduling and using Bridges and Wonders. I also added Kyle Montblanc. Although I didn't request him, he has been phenomenal and very responsive to all of our needs, from working with Wonders online platform, supporting grade level teams, and even working with my admin team, just helping us with tech issues. I purchased iPads and swivels for every grade level team, and we weren't really sure how to use them. So he's been taking the time and doing videos and sending them off to us to support our teachers and ourselves. So everything that I've asked for, I have received and have been using. Everything did come in late November. So December's been really busy with math planning, pulling the teachers out of the classrooms, so using the subs, and then the math planning and the Wonders planning. So that's been a lot. I mean, it's been a lot of great work, but I feel like we have the foundation moving forward to 2nd quarter. So is anybody there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, so I mean, I'm in a really good spot, I feel, and the district support has been responsive. Jen Burkhardt, she is going to start supporting Natalie Powers, my dean, with PBIS meetings, because one of our next steps is how do we build capacity with our PBIS team members. So she is also will be supporting in the 2nd semester. So we are in a really good spot. We just need to continue the work using the DSS funds for the math planning, because that is our secondary focus. And then Julie Branning will be working with my 2nd and 3rd grade teams in January to support them with the Wonders implementation, since we couldn't support all grade level teams. So that will link back to the DSS money to pull teachers out of the classrooms. Then we have money to pay for this stuff.
Any questions from the team?
No, no, it's just, I have to say, you know, when I asked, people are responsive to Sable and our needs, and that it's been going pretty well. Do you have any questions for me?
All right, so it doesn't appear as if we have any questions, so we'll continue to push forward. Make sure you do us a favor by updating your status report.
I
So when
will.
we circle back, that way we know where we are and what we may need to address.
Do you want that updated weekly, or can I do it every other week? Because some weeks I don't have much to add to it, or is it just when I have something to add?
That's on you. I've
Okay.
provided it to you. You know.
Okay,
I'll leave that up
perfect,
to
thank you.
All right.
All right, enjoy your holidays.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Our status report. So
Okay.
we'll show that in just a second. And if you can walk us through how we have been able to support you and let us know if there's some additional areas that we need to address. The team
And I
members
did
on-
just
Go ahead.
update that actually today after having an ESS meeting with Mary. I don't know if you
Okay.
can refresh that.
We're going to give it a shot.
Okay.
So folks on the call will have an opportunity to ask you some questions if there is a need for clarification.
Okay.
All right, so go right ahead.
Okay, so actually I think we're in a good spot going into the new year. I did change the ESS one to meeting goals without obstacles at this point.
Well, it should be green.
Yeah, and it's showing green on my end. And actually I put in some new verbiage too, so I'm not sure why that says it's saved, but it's not showing that way on your end. I don't know if you have a screenshot or why it's not doing that. But I can read it to you.
I think that's, well, look at in 13, see.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I put it in
All
the
right.
wrong one. That's why.
Yep. All right.
Sorry, I put it in the wrong spot. So I'll just start from the top if that works for you.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so as far as coaching support, we've had a lot of help from our instructional coach for the district, working with Andy Huang, who is our new teaching partner. She's been really supporting him in running effective PLCs. She had been helping me run PLCs until we onboarded Andy. And then now she's been kind of letting him take that over. However, they're still planning on a regular basis together, and he's kind of taking on that lead role to support especially our intermediate teachers in 3, 4, and 5 who will be taking CMAS. Melanie's also been helping Andy set up some observations at some other schools across the district that we're looking to have happen in January. For a lot of our teachers who are new to APS, who have mentors in the building, but we wanted to see some folks who are really implementing Wonders and Bridges with Fidelity and are getting good results. So Melanie's been helping Andy kind of make contact with the right people, since he's not as familiar with the schools and who might be a good contact. So we're working on sending mentors and mentees in January to, depending on the grade level and the need, either to see Wonders or Bridges. Questions on that one?
No, keep going.
Okay, so as far as ESS, and I'm sorry, I guess I put that in the wrong, I put it in last week's instead of this week's. Originally, I had said we had obstacles. We were really struggling getting especially mild mod off the ground this year. We had been short a person for almost the entire first quarter. And then we got an agency hire who was really struggling and needed a lot of support from Michelle, our instructional ESS coach, and it still wasn't helping. So I would definitely say we had obstacles. As of December 10th, we were actually able to hire someone on a 1-year only contract that we as a team decided would be a good fit. And so we have that person in place now. So Michelle's been working with him just the last week, pretty much, on just understanding the data collection points and how to have strong progress monitoring for those kids. She's going to be working with him more in January on the curriculum side. Right now, with all the report cards due and IEPs kind of really hitting hard, she wanted to make sure he understood the legal side. We also have Dana Rogers working with our AN folks. My understanding is she's been meeting with them weekly. Mr. Tancrete, our AP, has been working more with them and having meetings as needed She's mostly focusing on the behavioral side of programming. I still think we need some support with the curriculum side and how that looks in effective needs. So I was glad to see just that invite even come out that's going to be starting as far as reconfiguring AN and what our expectations are. Having said that, we also have obviously that new social worker that's going to be starting in January for effective needs. So we'll have 2 mental health folks for them. Jessica was able to get her out here last Friday to meet with both teachers briefly, to meet with myself, Paul, and our other social worker. And so Mary, our consultant, is going to be working with her as soon as we come back on the 6th to kind of see how those roles might play out. We've been mainstreaming a lot more kids in effective needs, but we could use a go-between between gen ed and AN so that they're effective transitions in mainstreaming. So it feels like finally, as of this week, and that's why I was updating it today and putting it in the wrong place, obviously, that it's coming together. Like we finally have a permanent hire in Mild Mod who seems like he's going to be a good fit. And while we have 2 brand new AN teachers to our building and 1 who's still working on a place, we have the supports in place that things are going well and we're having more mental health. So excited to see how that program will continue to improve even in the new year. As far as our CLDE support, we've been doing a lot with Diane Rosen and then my TL, Julie Dutch. Diane comes every week to meet with Julie, but then we also meet regularly together. I think it's every 2 weeks we've been meeting. Julie and Diane did 1 set of instructional rounds during ELD to kind of get a baseline. Together, we gave feedback to the staff about what our next steps were. And then I think it was December 2nd, all 3 of us went back into classrooms to kind of see what our trends were and maybe what our next steps will be. Right now, we have planned for January 6th to do a little bit more professional development around the assessments that Ashley's been asking staff to give and how that aligns to the DDI cycle of how to modify instructions within ELD block as well, because it seems as though they're moving through the kits, but they're not using the assessment data to really regulate reteach in ELD the same way that they do for reading and math. So that piece is coming. We were also able to kind of change up the ESL interventionist halftime that we got with DSS money. She had been working mostly with newcomers first quarter, and our concern was around our red on the SPF and how some students were really being stuck in certain categories. So that team, Julie, Diane, and our ESL interventionist really looked at some data and found a bunch of students who are LEP 3s and have been there for their 3rd year, so they have to move this year. So we've reconfigured the ESL interventionist schedule. She's only working with a small group of newcomers, but now we have identified 24 LEP 3s and intentionally grouped them to work with our ESL interventionists, working on academic growth in the content areas and doing some writing with some language experience approach, but hoping that we will get those kids then to see the progress we need to see to move them in their language growth. And then last, the one I think that still aren't seeing a whole lot of next steps for is just how to provide professional development for Wonders and Bridges for our folks who've actually implemented Bridges for 2 years and our folks who've implemented Wonders for 1 year. They finally have their feet under them, but it's almost like they need a 2.0 PD. Like, what's next? How do I go deeper with this? What's the most effective ways to really raise the level of rigor and not just implement it per the pacing guide? And for our new people, those who are on induction are getting some PD around those, but I've also got some new folks who have professional licenses, but they were from out of state and they are kind of looking for what's next. Having said that, I just had a mid-year with one of those teachers, 25 years from Oklahoma, but doesn't know Wonders and Bridges or Colorado State Standards very well yet. She just got an email from someone in Equity and Learning asking her to be part of kind of a think tank to see what teachers like her need. So it looks like there's some progress there, or there's at least a think tank out there starting to look at the what's next for some of those folks, but just don't know what's going to actually happen with that yet, or if that will be timely enough to impact her instruction this year. So for now, those folks are kind of working with the coaching support from that first requested need we talked about. And some of those folks are going to be going to still go look at other classrooms across the district. So we're going to kind of use walkthroughs to maybe fill that gap for now.
All right, so for the team, do you all have any specific questions for Jennifer?
Yeah, Harrington, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you were mentioning the assessment piece for EL Achieve. And you know, we sent the survey data out, so thank you all for completing that, because one of the pieces that came back was around assessment support. So I just wanted to let you know that there's a professional learning that we're going to be pushing out to the system that's happening on January 27th from 4 to 6, because we recognize that that's an area of need, not just for
I think you just cut out, Ashley.
Go ahead. You're good.
Okay.
January 27th was the last I
January
heard.
27th from 4 to 6.
Is that for teachers or the TLs, or who's to attend?
That is for anyone who is implementing. And it's to kind of calibrate and get all of those questions answered that people have around specifically that assessment portion.
Okay. Is there anything with that training that they're giving the assessments, but what they've been turning into our TL, sometimes they're not using the rubrics in a way that's actually probably reflective of how the kids are actually performing, like that, the WIDA rubric and the rubric from EL Achieve. And therefore then they're not really reteaching in a successful way. Are there any pieces that are during that are going to kind of walk them through how to accurately use the rubrics to assess, and then any next steps, like a mini DDI of what to do with that? Or is that something we should do at the school level?
No, so that will be part of that training, but also understanding that there's a continuation of the year one support. So this first year has just been, as we've been going out to buildings to try to calibrate and get some baseline understandings, to say what additional support as we see the data that's coming in from those sheets, that what are some things that we're seeing across the board that we need to hone in on, so that we're not just leaving year one schools going, good luck, but really providing some additional support in, as I'm collecting data, what does this mean? How do I implement this into not only just the ELD block, but how do I share this with teachers so that that data, there's a data loop coming back.
Gotcha.
So but the 27th is just the start of that. And we really want to get feedback from teachers upon, like, how do we expand this so that that data is meaningful and that it's transferring back to students.
Great, because we're trying to help them, at least a baby step on the 6 a little bit while we have that day, is help them kind of see the correlation to what they're doing in DDI day. And this is the same thing, just with another content area, because they're using it with Fidelity, but they're not using the assessments in an effective way to really make good choices for next steps.
And we also don't have every teacher using it just yet because it's a heavy lift. So we wanted to just small piecemeal that out so that we can get a core group of teachers, so that then they can then turnkey that to the rest of the ELD teachers.
Great.
So it's a learning curve for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a good start. It's just we noticed when they gave those assessments. I'm glad you actually said they were mandatory, because we're noticing some holes in the ways people are.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? So Jennifer, is there anything that you need in addition to what we've talked about?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I feel like we're getting a ton of support. I don't know if there is a place that has, with all the different teaching partners, or not teaching partners, but the coaches like Melanie across the district, if there's like a bank of who are the right, I don't know, who's showing that they're really effective with implementing the resources with Fidelity for Bridges and Wonders, because my mentors in the building know people who might be at certain schools that they just happen to know, and they keep trying to take their mentors or mentees there, and I'm not sure if it's necessarily the right people to see. So I want to make sure that if we're pulling people out of the building, they're getting a good view of instructional practices and not then starting to mimic something that's not what we're really looking for. And that's why I'm pulling them out of my own building, because we have some gaps ourselves, and we know that. So I want them to see something good. I don't just want them to see somebody's colleague from across town. You know what I mean?
This is Sue Lynn. Can you hear me?
I can.
Jen, I wonder if you can talk to Melanie specifically about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
There are schools within our community that might be strong examples of practice.
And she's been trying to help us with that. I just didn't know if there was like a district bank with amongst those folks.
Right. I mean, I think it would be great to have a list of demonstration classrooms in each community for each curriculum, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's, hey, this is Baez. That's where I was going to say you probably would want to bridge in Shelley into the conversation, Shelley or Julie, to get a sense of where there might be some spaces that would be good for the purpose of implementation specifically.
Will do. Thank you.
So I'll also reach out to them as well. But I think when talking about implementation specifically, they'd probably be the best source for that.
Great. Okay, I will. Any other questions? And I'll clean up that. Sorry that I put this week's on last week's for some reason. I'll fix that though.
All right, so what I need from you is continue to update your report. So when we are pulling back together to have this type of conversation, then we can all be on the same page. And of course, you have access to your supports across the district. So thank you for that. I appreciate it, and have a good holiday.
Thank you. You guys as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, Mr. Wright, how about yourself?
Great, great. I would have worn my shirt like yours, but I'll let you have the purple today.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you getting it to me.
Yeah.
So we're going to spend some time just walking through the status update that you have completed.
Yep.
And if you have any questions that you or issues that you want us to pay attention to, this is a good opportunity for that. The team will then ask questions for any clarification that they need. And when we get to the end, you can speak to what the next steps are if you need any additional supports or any adjustments or changes. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So looking at our status report, we had asked for support in the Standards Institute training, as well as teachers identifying and unpacking standards within our 90-day plan and the strategic scheduling consulting. From the response, I had a backup plan for that Standards Institute. One thing that I saw is getting teachers in front of the individuals from Unbound Ed was a big impact for a building at Gateway last year, but as well as people that had Unbound Ed training this summer really brought that back to the building and was leading that charge. So I had a backup plan for Standards Institute, so I'm using my CDE turnaround money to send our PLC leaders as well as 2 assistant principals to this training in February. So I had a backup plan on that. Within the unpacking standards and teachers reteaching intervention, we are getting a lot of support within our critical triangle meeting with Julia LeGrand and John Dumbleton, meeting with our teaching partners and really focused in on our literacy teachers. We have 7 brand new teachers to the building. 4 of them are in literacy. When I say brand new to the building, they're first-year teachers. And so our structured PLCs have really been around identifying and unpacking standards. And going into our critical triangle, we've had a lot of support from the district within Julia and John to move the ARC implementation forward. Our next step within that is our math department. I just met with Ken Jensen and my assistant principal that is over math, and we are implementing him as well as one member of his team. I can't remember her name. She is coming in to work with 2 of our new math teachers that are first-year teachers, as well as Ken's going to be working with our PLCs to really dive deep into the anticipation guide within our math standards. The next piece of that, I think some of our next steps we're going to need support on within the support we're already getting is really that reteach and how are we assessing that reteach and using that data to back that up. And the last part was that strategic scheduling consulting. Our first initial meeting, I really appreciate the support. We're meeting with ABLE tomorrow morning to look at the first scenarios that are coming across And so we are going to be pulling a committee together in January, about 5 to 7 stakeholders within the building, to see how we can implement more efficient planning time for teachers and having more efficient time for students as well in classes. So the biggest bang for buck right now within our PLCs is our 90-day plan. In our 90-day plan, we're just looking at to get that more support within our PLCs and the data talks. Hello?
Yeah, keep walking us through it.
All right. So within that, some of the pieces that we've seen from the critical triangle meeting, can you see my screen by any chance?
No?
No.
Just the status report is what we see.
Just the status report? Okay,
Right
so I'm
now.
going to go through our notes from our critical triangle meetings. So within our critical triangle meetings, with Julia, we have really went through the NTC structure for our coaching and prioritized how we are coaching and giving feedback using Getting Better Faster. And this has been very supportive, and the NTC structure has really helped that, and our teachers are growing within that. The feedback that they're getting and the professional learning that they're getting within our building. So we had a professional learning around CLD instructional strategies. As soon as we did the CLD instructional strategy, we went to our UBD planning for our units and looked at the big picture of what the units were asking for. Then we broke it back down into the day-to-day lesson planning. And that's when we implemented working through student discourse, and really working through structured, purposeful turn and talks. We have a professional learning that that's taking place here January 6th around focused note taking, as well as critical reading strategies that Avid is putting on. They're sending a facilitator to us January 6th. As soon as we get done with that professional learning in the morning, we're going into a structured planning time where our PLC leaders that we've identified within our implementation benchmarks, they are leading through their own PLCs with some tight expectations around what we're going to see within classrooms around the professional learning that we're giving. And so Julia is going to be a part of that planning purpose. So we're doing that with the ARC implementation in mind and using the framework, seeing where we can plug in these instructional strategies to make sure we're monitoring how students are really working through that learning objective tied to the standard, and really tying that exit ticket and to see if they hit that learning objective for that day. So what I can say is we're within math and within science and social studies, Sam Duvey and Amanda Gould have been meeting with my assistant principal, Ann Ferris, with one thing within our schedule that I'm really looking to change up. We had half semesters of science and half semesters of social studies. That's a schedule we inherited. So they have to really work towards coming up with half semester plans. Now the kids are swapping. So we're looking to move into year-long science, year-long social studies going into next year. Within professional learning, what I can say is Julia and John, they're consistently here. They're consistently working with us in a positive way. Our teachers are responding to them. With our behavior systems and support, Christine Lavin Santos is working with our MTSS committee, and we got that grant. We have our South Strong values that we are implementing going into January, and we've identified within our MTSS process our non-negotiables that we have within the building are how do we really truly act as middle school students within the hallways, within the cafeteria, within assemblies, as well as recess and different school events. And we are rolling that out as soon as we get back in January. So that's been a lot of work our MTSS team's been doing with Lavin Santos over this fall semester. As well as we are partnering with History Colorado. We have a meeting with them tomorrow for the Young Men of Color initiative. And that is coming about tomorrow morning, where I have my restorative liaison, Ray Downing, will be our go-to person for that. And he will be, we're gonna be setting some tight expectations around who we're identifying for that, for the Young Men of Color initiative. All right.
All right. What else did you need to share with us? So for me, you can turn it down.
That's all I have right there.
Okay. All right. So specific around any next steps for us or for the team, do you all have any questions for Haran? Anything that you need for us to focus on as we get ready for second semester?
I think our biggest next step, and we took that this week, is getting our math support from Ken Jensen. And we're on the same page of what we're going to do, and we prioritized our teachers, prioritized our PLCs. And so I'm looking forward to see how we're going to progress monitor that within our PLCs. Going into our 90-day planning, that's going to be one of our implementation benchmarks is through math and what we're doing with our curriculum components in math and PSOC. And so that's one of the adjustments we're going to be making in our 90-day plan. So we'll probably have, when we go to UVA in January, we're going to be looking at to see how the PLCs are structured within math and PSOC, and I think Ken Jensen is going to help support that a lot.
All right, so if you would do me a favor and continue to update your status report as we circle back, that would be a great help for me and the team. And you have access to all these folks that are on the call, so anything that you need as we continue to progress forward, let us know.
There's one question I do have. Can I get the Standards Institute training that's at the top? Can we change that up? Because since we're sending that into, that's a request that we're going through our CDE funds, could we just focus in on our teachers, identify, impact, and district prioritized standards in our strategic scheduling consulting?
I would suggest you go through Garrett for that, just to clarify what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Sounds good.
Does that work?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
If you can walk us through where we are and our support of you, and the team will be here to ask any questions for clarification, and then we'll work through next steps.
Okay, sounds good. So before we jump right in, I was hoping to just share a couple of data celebrations. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So some of our data celebrations from the last interim, we had all grades 3 through 5 saw a 3 to 4% gain in ELA. So we were really excited about that. Second grade math was up 29%. So almost half of the grade level was in the green. We're really excited about our second grade team and the growth that they're making with math. Fourth grade math was also up 7%. And then when looking at the short constructed response, we had all grades 2 through 5 had a decrease in the number of zeros on short constructed response. And then all grades 3rd through 5th saw increases in the number of students who received the highest score for short constructed response. So we're really excited about that. Our PLCs are pretty tightly aligned to the Bambrick model and also to the work of the priority standards in the short constructed response. We feel like we're starting to see some gains for that. So just wanted to share that to kind of kick off today's meeting. So I will jump into the requested support. So as you can see, the first one that we really were asking for support with was district level support for AN, and really thinking about the short term, so this school year, as well as the long term. And I did move that status to meeting goals at this point. I feel like we have a game plan and some very strategic things are happening. Obviously, we still have challenges with AN on a daily basis, but I feel like we have a plan in place. So right now, I am meeting with Shay Carter monthly. We actually had our first monthly meeting in November. We did not have a December one. She unfortunately had to cancel, but we do have our January one set up. And that's really just to continue to have open lines of communication around challenges and needs. I also am meeting with Claire regularly as well. And Claire, so had the first meeting with Shay really to get clear on sort of our game plan. Our game plan, in essence, is to just reduce the number of students in our program. And so really that's going to be through kiddos that are ready for to return to the mainstream classroom, and then also kiddos who might be needing more intensive support. And so I met with Claire to kind of prioritize our reevals. So we looked at, you know, when are kids up for reeval anyways, and what makes sense, and who needs the most intensive support. And so thankfully, the ESS team has granted us with an ESS consultant assistant. He's here providing additional support for the AN classroom as we are getting reevals done, and hopefully reducing the numbers of our class size. We are also receiving regular weekly support from Dana Rogers, who is providing coaching to my AN teacher. As you guys are probably aware, my AN teacher is brand new, and so her coaching support from Dana is definitely necessary and appreciated. We also were granted a full-time school social worker. Thank you very much for that. So now we actually have, we still have a 0.7 vacancy for our ESS caseload. But right now my school social worker is working primarily to support the AN classroom. She's still doing about 0.1%, just supporting the ESS caseload, but I have a temporary or an interim social worker who's working 2 days a week with kiddos as we're trying to get that 0.7 filled. Talked to Jessica O'Maraday this morning, and there's a candidate in the queue, so we're going to look at that, and if not, you know, just obviously actively recruiting to try to get that 0.7 caseload filled. In terms of the long-term support, I've had several meetings about AN, Andre, with you, of course, and then I did see the memo today about the focus groups that are going to be occurring second semester. So I'm feeling really good about the short-term and the long-term support that we're receiving. One thing just, or really two things that would still be beneficial just at this juncture in time, or where we're at right now, is we are very interested in the neurosequential model and using some of that research and best practice to support our AN classroom. So I don't know, I know that there were pilot schools and there was an application process and that sort of thing. But I'm just wondering if any of it could be brought to our team. I know our paras are eager to learn strategies and ways to best support our kiddos. So I don't know if there's any way to bring any of that to us this year, just to support the AN classroom. That would be greatly appreciated. And then just continued training and support for more intensive CPI holds. We did have Rick come out and train my team on a more intensive CPI hold. And so just, you know, it's our understanding that some of those require additional authorizations or that sort of thing. So we were thinking either if there could be a district team that is authorized that would come support when those are needed, or just continue to provide training and, you know, tell us what we need to do to be authorized to do those more intensive CPI holds when needed. But again, just feeling really good about the progress we've made with AN, and both for the short term and the long term. In terms of support with district curricular resources, that one I just said meeting goals but with challenges. We have, Jim actually reached out to us this week just to see how he could support us on the math side. Math isn't necessarily our focus, like, you know, in terms of the DDI days and PLCs. ELA is our focus because of our data. We did meet growth expectations for math last year, whereas we did not meet growth expectations for ELA. So we have elected ELA as our focus area. But Jim did reach out last week, I think it was last week, just to see what support we needed. And I did ask him to support my teaching partner, with just continuing to build capacity around, you know, how do we support kids with unfinished learning? We currently use some of our ALD block for math intervention. And so really wanting to build the capacity of our teachers to continue that work that we learned at the recent principals meeting from Unbound Ed. Unfortunately, on the literacy side, we haven't really received any support for Lucy Calkins or Fontes and Pinnell. So that's just something that we haven't really received any support for yet. In terms of newcomer support, so we, as I mentioned in the last strategic response meeting, we do have an increasing number of newcomers. We went from 21% to 28% this year, kiddos who are really in their first year in the country. And so this is kind of twofold. One, it's obviously making sure that we're providing access to Tier 1, appropriate access to Tier 1 so that kiddos can access grade level content. Just making sure that we're doing that with things like the can-do descriptors and with research-based best practice. The other part of that is just more support for our newcomer families. So in my strategic response letter, it said that we should connect with Elizabeth Battle. We have not had any contact from her reaching out. We did try reaching out to her, but I think she's been out of town or just not in the office. So hopefully we'll hear back from her soon, because we did reach out to her just to see what district supports were available. We have been working with Laura Cooper, though, our CLDE teacher leader. She is, or I'm sorry, our CLDE consultant. She is working with my teacher leader to really on that access to Tier 1 for newcomers. And we've been doing some pretty intensive professional learning for our teachers around, again, how do we use the can-do descriptors and still, you know, have tasks that are aligned to grade level content and rigor, but then what is reasonable to expect in terms of work production from our newcomers, and how do we best give them access to content. And so Laura's been doing a great job with my CLDE teacher leader. In terms of what we still need for newcomer support, again, it's more of the other side of that, which is just how do we get all of our newcomer families engaged with the Welcome Center. It's my understanding that only about 6% of our families are accessing the Welcome Center. And I'm not exactly sure what the gap is there, but we know that they're not all accessing the supports there. And then I know from the online system, sometimes there's difficulties with grade level placement. So if parents are enrolling online, they may not always know which grade level placement to select, and so we're having to move kids after the fact when we get more information. The other thing is seeing a lot of newcomers who have gaps in their education, meaning maybe they didn't have education for the last year and a half, or they haven't been in school for a year or 2 years. And then kind of what's the process or protocol when kiddos come to us and haven't been in school for several years. So I just know that more assistance on that side would be beneficial as well.
So Vanessa, I just reached out to Elizabeth and she'll be reaching out to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, and then another, the next one on here was processes to support families in crisis. Again, Elizabeth Battle was also the contact we were given on that, so hopefully we'll be able to connect with her soon. And really that's more just supporting families in crisis. What we've seen is it's most often our AN families that are just really struggling with personal things and mental health throughout the family. And so just really wanting to provide more wraparound services for them. So we'll definitely connect with Elizabeth Battle on that. Systems and structure support for mental health. On this one, on my letter, it said that we were to connect with Dan Gerzik on the neurosequential model, and that he was gonna really serve as kind of our consultant with implementation of the neurosequential model. There hasn't been any focus on the neurosequential model in particular with our work with him. He has been a tremendous help for us. A lot of we call it our student support team here at 6th Avenue. And really the student support team is my dean and my mental health providers. And a lot of them are new. They're very new and very green. And so, you know, obviously we appreciate the support and having them here, but there's also a lot of training and, you know, experience that they are going to need to really be effective. And so where Dan has really supported us is he's actually been out, I want to say 4 or 5 times at this point to work with my team on really building sound systems and structures for tier 1, you know, to tier 3 mental health and behavioral support. So he's really been supporting them with what do the systems and structures look like, what data collection do we need to be doing, how are we collecting that data, and really helping us through that. So he has definitely been extremely helpful to us there. I did talk to him this morning about the neurosequential model more and just said, hey, you know, this is definitely something, especially having an AN program, this is definitely an area that we would want to focus in and get support. And again, I realize that the pilot is already in place, but if there's any way we can get any training or access to any of that, that would be greatly beneficial to us. So I mentioned that to him as well as Jessica Omerade this morning. I know that there is a meeting in January where I think the neurosequential team is coming out to assist us with 2 students and just thinking through some interventions. That's yet to happen. But then we also advocated, so I advocated to get some additional support from Health One, and we were able to do that, and they may also be able to provide even more support for us in January. So we're looking forward to hearing if we're able to get more support from Health One as well. We had a Health One person, counselor here 2 days a week, and she just saw the caseload. And the good thing is that in the past, when we worked with Aurora Mental Health, for whatever reason, we ran into a lot of roadblocks with getting kiddos services. With Health One, we're not seeing that at all. In fact, parents are, you know, definitely on board with getting their kiddos support, and we're not running into some of the same permissions and parent signatures and that sort of thing. I think with Aurora Mental Health, you had to have both parent signatures, and obviously that can always happen for some of our families. So just really appreciating that Health One partnership, and again, looking forward to some additional support from them, hopefully coming in January. In terms of the tier 2 and 3 behavior support, this is one that I indicated that we're not meeting goals with yet. We did have, so on my strategic response letter, it said to work with Jennifer Burkhart. Jennifer Burkhart has been out to work with my dean, but I met with them together, and Jennifer really indicated that she doesn't support with tier 2 and tier 3, that she really only supports with tier 1. And so, you know, she did obviously support my new dean with some ideas and stuff for tier 1, but we're really looking for tier 2 and tier 3 options. So really thinking about when behaviors are more frequent, when the duration is longer, when the intensity is greater. So, you know, just what are some ideas for working with kiddos that are really needing, I would say more needing tier 3 intervention, because tier 2, I feel like we are doing a really good job. We're starting to do more proactive social emotional learning groups and that sort of thing. So it's really that tier 3 piece that we're needing. We did attend a district level threat assessment meeting per the recommendation of our threat assessment team member, which is Connie Young. So, you know, she obviously was aware of some of the things that were happening. And so she was like, you guys should really do one of the district threat assessment meetings. And we may have been incorrect in our, you know, going into the meeting, not really knowing what we should expect. And so I think we were hoping to leave that meeting with some ideas for interventions and supports to keep students safe and stuff. And really didn't feel that we left that meeting with any additional ideas and suggestions. And again, that may not be the purpose of that. But that's still a need for us, is just having some support with what do we do with tier 3 behaviors, and what would appropriate interventions look like for that. The next one was district deployed support. This one definitely, actually I probably should have made that one green. Let me see my notes here. HR is out monthly for school visits, and they're always, they deploy as needed. We have an ESS consultant here assisting AN. We have met with Angela Harrison in ESS. She is coaching my ESS teachers around supporting students on IEPs with access to grade level content and Tier 1 instruction. And we did have Rick out, as I mentioned earlier, to support with that training for more intensive CPI hold. So that one probably should be green. I feel like we're getting deployed supports when we need them. I think just the one thing that I mentioned earlier was if we're not authorized to do more intensive holds, is there a way to have access to someone who is, or just to have additional support if there's high level escalations and that kind of thing. And then the last one on here is protocols for ESS. Really so two things. One is I saw that there's an AN handbook. I probably need to bring that up with Shay or Claire and just kind of spend some time going through it with them. So that's a next step that I have on my end. But some of the protocols that would be helpful is really just helping us about really answering the question of when and how, and for how long, for really 4 different things. So one of them is when a student in AN needs more intensive care, it'd be really nice if there were a protocol to really say, if your team is thinking that a student needs more intensive care, here's kind of what you need to do. We've ran into just some struggles in terms of like data collection. What should we be collecting for how long? Do we need to collect it for? That sort of thing. When and how do we modify a behavior intervention plan or the BIP? There's a lack of clarity around when we do that. When and how do we do the IDF data collection? And then just what's the process or protocol when students return from major incidents like hospitalization and that sort of thing. So those are really 4 specific things that we think would be beneficial if there was more direction or a process or a protocol that we could, really just make sure that we're following properly. That way we can access services for kiddos faster, because sometimes we feel like we're just kind of turning our wheels and we're not serving the kiddo to the best of our ability. So clarity around those things, I think, would just ensure that we can help kiddos faster. And so that is really all of the things on our strategic response requests.
Hey, Vanessa, thanks. This is Starla, and we're kind of switching a little bit here.
Okay.
Thanks for the thorough update on your status update and just ways in which the team has been helpful and some next steps as well. Team, I'm going to reach out to you and see if you have any additional questions for Vanessa.
Hey, Vanessa, this is Baez.
Hi, Baez.
Hi, I have a question for you because I know in the last, the initial strategic response meeting, Julie had mentioned that she was going to follow up with you, Monica and Melanie, and just like check in on phonics implementation. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear. Are you saying that that has not happened at all?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
If she met with Monica and Melanie without me, that's very possible, but my TP didn't say anything to me about it, and neither has Melanie.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I had just a clarifying question, Vanessa, about your 28% of newcomers.
Mm-hmm.
Is that 20% of your ELL population or 20% of your school?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Sure. You had mentioned that your newcomer population had increased from 21% to 28%.
Mm-hmm.
Is that of your ELL population?
I think it's of the school, but I'm not positive. I'd have to double check.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So Vanessa, in addition to the things that you've pointed out, are there any other additional supports that you need moving forward?
I don't think so, not other than what I mentioned just as I was going through each category. I think we're just in general, we're feeling a lot more supported this year. in some cases, we weren't sure if the responsibility was on us to reach out or if the responsibility was on the support team member to reach out. So maybe just clarity around that. Like, should we be, ultimately, I'm sure it doesn't matter. But, just in reflecting, I was like, I wasn't sure if that was my responsibility or theirs. And so, again, just some clarity around who should be reaching out. Should it be the school or is it up to the support team member to reach out to us? Because I think some things may have been delayed, like supports may have been delayed just because we were unclear and so in going through this, I was like, well, let's just reach out. If we haven't heard from somebody who, is listed on our strategic response letter, then let's just make the first move.
Okay, I appreciate hearing that, and that should be on us. And so you've identified a couple of areas where we can strengthen there, and so you'll certainly be hearing from some folks. And then also thinking about some of the areas where maybe it has felt a little less supportive. We'll work on shoring that up on our end.
Okay.
So thank you so much for your preparation today and for filling us in on where you are with things. I'm really glad to hear about it and really glad that you're making some progress in some of the goals that you're working on. So moving forward, if you'll continue to maintain your status report, that gives Andre and Sue Lynn and the team a way to monitor the progress around the support that we're working to give to you.
Okay, is the expectation on that just to every time there's a date, we should be updating it every time there's a date?
That, as Andre would say to others, that's on you. But I think that, it's easy enough to just move that from week to week. And then if there are any particular updates to call attention to them.
Okay, that sounds good. Again, I appreciate your guys' support. This definitely, you can tell that improvements have already happened from last year because it's just feeling even more supportive this year. And I'm just appreciative of this support that we get from the district and that we're able to articulate our individual concerns and challenges and then really have your guys' support in addressing those challenges. So I can't thank you guys enough for that.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Vanessa. Happy holidays to you, and we'll see you next year. All
okay,
right.
Thanks everyone.
Right.
Take care.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Lee, this is Starla, and just on behalf of the Division of Equity and Learning, we're welcoming you here this afternoon. And this will give you a chance to give us all an update in terms of your strategic response. In just a moment, Sylvia is going to pull up your strategic response updates, and we're just going to let you talk through that.
Great, Starla. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're looking at that right now. We'll just let you go ahead and update.
Sure, no worries. I'm going to get rid of my face so I'm not staring at myself. Well, good afternoon. I hope everyone's doing well. One day left before break. And I'm looking forward to just giving you an update on the work that's happening at Park Lane. As you can see on the left-hand side, these are some of the requested needs that we've been having across the building with a strong emphasis on literacy and feeling really good about where we're sitting today, especially with the most recent diagnostic information from iReady that shows some growth. So that's been really exciting for us. We did have a very slow start. So if you go back and look at the first few weeks of the status update, it was a lot of coordination and trying to get everybody kind of on the same page around the mental model and the direction we wanted to go. I'll just go on through the requested needs and kind of where we're sitting today and kind of the next steps. But the first one that was really important for us was that we got some specific coaching for our foundational grade levels, so ECE, kindergarten, and first grade. We've had tremendous support from Marissa. She's been able to come in and really support us with our vision of implementing a phonemic awareness curriculum in addition to Wonders and she's been able to support us with implementing some strong literacy stations. One of the things that we're bumping up against is that our teacher partner is being asked to support the coaching across preschool through 5th grade, and that has been a really heavy lift for her. She also, her strength is in the upper grades, and so really have asked Marissa to kind of support us with building her capacity, but also being able to take on some of that coaching. And so that's has started, and she's working with our kindergarten teachers with rolling out intentional literacy stations. And my request would be that she continue to partner with us in that role as we build the capacity of our teacher partner. And then if you look at our second one, again, this is continuing to build that need of our teaching partner to make sure she's able to support literacy development in EC all the way through 5th grade. Our instructional coach has been supporting her with that work. And this is where we've run into some obstacles, and I think part of it has been just a communication gap between me and my teaching partner and Liz, and we're working to support that by creating more of a weekly, not a weekly, excuse me, but a monthly calibration triangle to make sure we're moving in the right direction. She's been supporting also with the EC and kindergarten development, and one of the things I pushed Liz to really focus on in our last conversation was making sure that she's directly communicating with me, but also really putting an emphasis on her ability to meta coach our teaching partner and to look at unpacking those standards in the upper grades. Again, so that's an area of growth that my teaching partner is working on, and so just making sure that she's getting the necessary traction. My third area of focus was really around some of the unique challenges that we're facing at our school, is that with such high turnover, we have quite a young and novice staff here, including myself and my assistant principal. And so we were really looking for some really effective classrooms to visit that were modeling some of the literacy rotations and rituals and routines that we were looking for. I was able to gain that support from the principal at Kenton, and then worked really closely with Jen to conduct those visitations. Unfortunately, just due to the timelines, we haven't been able to engage in those observations yet, and we're shooting for the beginning of January. At the same time, we have been able to take advantage of our work with immersion and have put some of our higher tier 2 teachers through the immersion avatar classroom management modules, and that's been really a great learning opportunity, and Michelle Ming has been able to support us with renorming those rituals and routines. Is there a way to scroll down? Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And so our next area of focus has been really about making sure that our culture is a foundational. The second lever that we've really been focusing on in our 90-day plan has been around developing a strong culture for our students and staff. And we've been really working on making sure that we have a strong discipline system. One of the things that came up from the original strategic response is that it appeared that maybe some of the philosophies weren't in alignment with the district's philosophies. So there was a lot of conversation that happened early on between me and the mental health team to make sure that the work that we were doing with No Nonsense Nurture was not contradictory to the vision and mission of the mental health team here in Aurora. And through really good conversation with some of those key members, we've really been able to see where that piece lives and how it aligns to the PBIS model. So that's been some really good work. One of the things that is happening currently in our building is we're doing some more intensive support for my assistant principal in the building currently. And so wanting to make sure that we are documenting our discipline referrals and suspensions and other behavior data correctly. And so that would be a new request that I'm asking, is that I've met with John Potter myself, but really wanting to make sure that John is able to come back and meet with my assistant principal to make sure he's documenting our suspension data correctly and our referral data correctly, and also tracking some of those hot spots for us as we continue to develop our school culture. And then are you able to scroll down one more? And then the last one, like I said, I have spoken to just briefly about, is really asking for some more support from my assistant principal. He has been able to secure a mentor within the district from Aurora Quest. Unfortunately, it hasn't been sufficient support to really gain the level of traction needed with our AP. And so we have kind of modified our organizational structure a little bit to limit some of his tasks. And now he's focusing primarily on day-to-day operations and discipline and the SAC responsibilities. What this is doing to the building is it's putting more of the evaluation work onto my caseload. And while that does feel like a heavy lift, through conversations that I'm having currently with my mentor and with my learning director, I believe it's the right next step to ensure that our teachers have continuity and consistent accountability with instructional best practices moving forward for the rest of the school year. One of the things that my assistant principal will be able to oversee a little bit more now that we've taken that piece off his plate is he will be able to concentrate again a little bit more on the CLDE work. And again, that's like a little bit of a new ask, because I think we're ready for that piece at this point, is to be able to help have him partner a little bit beyond just the SAC responsibilities for CLDE, but also be able to get some more traction around our ELD implementation at this time. And then just finally, just some of my final notes that I just really wanted to capture for you guys today is I'm really, really grateful for being able to have a mentor myself. So I've been able to partner with Jen Ditcher from Vaughn, and she's been incredibly helpful and supportive to me with her UVA training, which is the same training I'm coming in. But just that foundational knowledge of the intricacies of APS, that's been really important to me. Some of the gaps that we're still up against that are really challenging for our building right now is we are still short a cross-categorical teacher. So we still do not have a special education teacher. And although there are TOSA instructional coaches from ESS on our campus, our students are continuing to not be appropriately served. And so just wondering if there is some ability for those individuals to come in and service our children a little bit more intentionally. I have a couple teachers who will be non-renewed at the end of the year unless we see some real significant growth. And I'm continuing to work on understanding my budget to leverage additional staff. And then I just wanted to really shout out my staff and the hard work that they've been doing. At the bottom, you can see some of our most recent data celebrations. So just recently, when we compared Diagnostic 1 and Diagnostic 2 for iReady, we went from 61% to 45% Tier 3 reduction, and we had a growth from 6% to 19% in Tier 1 increases, and that's across kindergarten through 5th grade. And then when we look at our interim data, comparing interim 1 to interim 2, in English language arts in our 4th grade, we moved from 0% to 9% proficiency, and then in 5th grade, 2% to 8%. And then in math, we went from 5% to 22% in 3rd grade, 4% to 9% in math, and also 4% to 5 to 9% in 5th grade math. So just really want to shout out my staff. I know that they're working hard. I feel like we're on the right direction. And I'm really grateful to the support from the Department of Equity and Learning. Thank you.
Annalee, thank you for the detailed update on the status. And you've already kind of woven in a lot of requests in there as well. What I'd like to do is open this to the team and see if there are any questions from the field.
So Starla, I just have more of a statement.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. As it relates to the special education supports and not having that support there, Rachel did meet with myself and a couple other stakeholders from SPED, and we're looking at a little bit more aggressive options given that no one is falling into the hiring bucket. So just because of the shift in the temporary personnel that was credentialed, that she's currently taking a hard look at ratios across the district to see if there's any way to utilize personnel in a creative way to ensure that they get met, so that that is happening and that we are doing our due diligence there to try to support them.
Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I know that, and I've been in conversations with Rachel as well, where I knew that, Park Lane had not been fully staffed yet. I knew that there were no people to be choosing from. So it's a known problem, and I know our best people are on it. Rachel's also on this, and I know she's hearing all of this as well. And so I have no doubt we're working to problem solve it. It's certainly not an easy one, and yet it's one with, a high level of compliance. And so not just compliance, I mean, we have children we need to serve. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so thanks, Garrett, for letting me know about just some updates around where we are with that. Anything else from the team?
Yes, Annalee, this is Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi. So I know that Dahlia has been out to support with getting access off the ground, the calendar, the schedule, and just making sure that all of that is ready for, I think your PD is happening on January 8th.
Yes, ma'am.
So in terms of the additional, are you looking at additional support beyond what Dahlia is doing, or is it within Dahlia's role?
So I think it's within Dahlia's role, but if you recall, Ashley, at the beginning of the year, I asked for your grace to just slow the rollout of the ELD implementation around EL Achieve, just because we're moving so many pieces at once.
Right. So that's why
and so
a year too.
Yes, so I really appreciate that. And I think where we're at in January, or once we are done with access testing at the end of January, my assistant principal will have a little bit of time on his hands, and I would love to be able to start working to really leverage some of our teachers around English language development, even if it's just integrated EL best practices, but I think that we're ready for that. So I just wanted to let you know that that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, perfect. And so then we would just be able to naturally move into a year two if we work on that second semester piece, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it will be a smarter transition for us, because again, I think our teachers are have gotten more of they were learning so many new things all at once, as well as having new administration. And I think we're in a position where they're feeling a lot more confident with the work that we're doing. And we have a large English language population at our school that really deserves some of the appropriate scaffolds. And so just want to make sure that that is on your radar as a top priority for me.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ashley.
Well, Annalee, I think you were really thorough in the status update of providing some of the areas around additional requests. But let me open this up and ask, are there any additional supports that you need other than what you've identified moving forward into second semester?
No, I mean, I really feel really great. I'm excited about the traction we're getting with our data. I know we have a long road ahead of us, but have felt really supported through the ongoing conversations with the members of the Department of Equity and Learning, and really feel supported by Garrett, who's continuing to help me leverage our instructional coach and just help me navigate a new district. Same with Jen. That's just been a real blessing for me to be able to predict what's coming in the next couple of months. So it's a lot more strategic than just being reminded, a couple weeks beforehand. So I'm looking forward to starting budget season for the 2020-21 school year and hiring practices. I know I am anticipating some turnover again for the 2020-21 school year. So that's kind of where my focus is going at this point, is making sure that HR and the staff is appropriately placed for next year, as well as for the end of this year.
Right, that's always the interesting place for a principal to be. Your foot is always into next year for sure.
Yeah.
So Annalee, moving forward, we'll just ask you to continue to keep your status report updated, and that's a great way to just communicate to let us know how we're doing. And you've also identified, as I said, some areas where we can help shore up some of the work, and so we appreciate that.
Sure. And if you have any feedback for me, I'm welcome to, take that on as well. And just, if there's anything that as people are reading back through the notes, if there's any questions or concerns, to just not hesitate to reach out to me so that I can be a team player in this learning opportunity and growth for Park Lane.
Great, you've got it, absolutely. Hey, in the meantime, enjoy your holidays. I see Garrett's flashing notes here.
Couldn't help but smile.
Well, enjoy your holidays, Annalee, and we'll see you in early 2020.
Okay, thank you. Happy
All
holidays.
right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
To you.
Hi.
So Jen, great to have you here with us this afternoon, and just on the behalf of Division of Equity and Learning, we're here to hear from you, and this will give you a chance to give us an update, let us know how we're doing in terms of requests that you've made to support you in your work at Lansing. And so I will stop talking and give you a chance to go over your status update with us, and we can see that on our screen now.
Okay, thank you so much for having me today, whoever's in the room. I asked for two levers of support. The first one in special education for a clear instructional system for mild moderate services. I am pleased to say that we are on a track, and well, I'll let you know if it works. What we're leveraging is planning and the collaboration between general education and special education. And so Erin Grodesky and from special education and our SPED consultant, Megan Tanazzini, are planning with our coaches to, we're going to start small in second grade because we think that's going to be a really successful collaboration with second grade and mild moderate, and see if we can do a few things. One, being able to plan the tier 1 instruction for standards for all students, including students on an IEP, and then to see what we can learn about accommodations and modifications in general education, because 80% of those students on an IEP are spending their time in general education. And then what formative weekly assessments can we expect from all students at grade level. So that is happening the Wednesday we get back from break on January 8th, and we will let you know how it goes. I'm excited for that collaboration. The second level of support I asked is, it often takes about 6 months to get students with severe needs qualified for an IEP and then placed in the right place with the right level of support. And that becomes really intensive with staff in terms of staff resources and then just general resources. So I'm calling those kids the kids in the gap, and I realize that's a pretty clunky definition. So if we have a better one, I'm certainly willing to listen to that. But between that time when they're in general education and special education, For example, we had a kindergarten student, never been in school, clearly autistic. We've had 9 people supporting daily for him. And we just got his records request this week. So for the entire semester, we've had 9 people pulled out of classrooms to help for that student. And I just think that there's probably a better way that maybe I'm not thinking of. So I asked mental health to maybe give us some ideas. I don't know if that was the right request from the right division. I haven't had a response from them yet. So I'm looking forward to that in the future. So those were the 2 things that I asked for, and that's where we're at.
Jen, can you share who you reached out to for mental health support?
I didn't. So because my understanding was that as the Division of Equity, someone would be reaching out to me. I did meet with Dan, who's one of the directors, and we talked about how we're using my counselor. So I'm not sure that was, I think there was a different purpose for that meeting. So that could be on me because I didn't reach out to anyone.
Oh, no, that's okay. I thought I'd heard you say that you hadn't gotten a response, but it sounds as though you were waiting for someone to reach out and that hasn't happened yet. Is that accurate?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for letting us know that, because that's certainly on us and we need to step that up. You should be hearing from our team. Okay. And so we'll definitely work with Jessica. I don't see her on the call today. I don't see her on this, but we will most definitely loop back around with Jessica and make sure that we have someone reaching out to you to give you that support that you're asking for and need.
Yeah. Thank you.
So thanks for that status update. At this time, I'll extend this to the team. What questions might you have for Jen? Okay, no questions, jokes. Anyone with a good joke today? None of that either. Well, I guess we're just not on our game today. No, but thank you for that. Jen, in addition to some of the things that you've talked about and certainly reaching back out with some mental health support in that way, what other support might you need and additional support you need moving forward into second semester from our division?
Is this a good time to talk about DDI, those DDI days? Is this a good place to do that, or is that a different deal?
Oh, go ahead.
I love what we're doing, and I have been doing it in our building for 3 years. My teachers came back with probably this last time the very worst reteach plans I've ever seen them write. And I need your help. I need, I can't be at every one of those. And, as a principal, you're a major control freak. And so I want to be at all of them to make sure the quality is good. I did see the good teaching. I saw that there was intentional purpose and practice in the classroom, but I didn't see that show up on the Google Doc. And my teachers can't get away with that. So, yeah, I just need your help holding them accountable.
Hey Jen, this is Baez. So did you see that after you went back to the site and reviewed their plans?
I am looking at their plans the entire Friday that they're in there. So and then I'm writing them notes, and yeah, they were terrible. And I don't think it's the fault of your facilitators. I think it's the fault of my teachers thinking they can get away with it.
Okay. I'll definitely, what I can do is share that feedback with the team so that the facilitators can maybe do some extra rounds over to the Lansing tables.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, it's one of those things, right? And so, but I definitely, if there's specific things that you're noticing that you think could look different during the DDI day to better support the outputs that they're creating in those plans, we definitely would love to hear that.
No, I don't think so, Baez. But to be fair, I've only probably sit in on 6 sessions with different groups, and I've seen really good work happening. So I don't think it's the fault of the facilitators. I really do think that my teachers are like, oh, we know what we're doing. And I did see it in classrooms, but it needs to be in both places, in my opinion. It needs to be on their plan and in their classrooms happening. So
okay, for sure. Well, I'll let the team know just to have more of a watchful eye with your teachers at the next DDI day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, thank you. And so just moving forward Jen, if you will continue to stay in maintaining your status report, that's a really helpful tool, both for Andre, I know Carol as well, and it gives our team that feedback loop as well. One of the things that you can count on is you'll be hearing from our mental health team to give you that support that you're asking for and need there.
Thanks. I appreciate it. You guys are wonderful. Thanks for supporting us.
Well, thank you for your leadership.
Right.
All right. Well, and thank you too for preparing for today and being with us for a little bit this afternoon. And it's almost time for a break. You've got a teacher work day tomorrow. Yes.
Yes, we do.
And then a little bit of a breath. So take that time and just relax and enjoy some time away. And I know you'll come back at it in 2020 with all kinds of vim and vigor.
Thanks, you guys. Happy holidays. Take care. Enjoy your families.
All right, Jen.
All right.
Take care. Bye.